Hi everybody, it's Nikki here and welcome to a bookish video. So today we have my July reading wrap up, which is where I talk about all the books that I read in July and I give you my thoughts and opinions on them. I don't go into synopses into these books unless they were not on my original TBR, and in July I kind of went off my original TBR a little bit. So I will be giving you some synopses for books, but not for all of them. So if you would like to find about any of these books that I don't give you a synopsis about, just Google them or look on Goodreads or even Amazon or anywhere that sells books. They generally will give you a synopsis. But hopefully you will get enough from my review and my opinion of each book to let you know whether you might enjoy it as well. So we will do the statistics and everything at the end, but let's get straight into what I read. So first of all, I'm not going to give you synopses or really go into too much about one of the things that I read, and that is a bunch of comics. One of my Bookgammon TBR prompts was to read a comic, so I picked a couple from the many that I got from a free comic book day that Forbidden Planet were doing last year. They did do it again this year. I believe it is a yearly event. However, I didn't go this year because I still haven't read many from last year's. So the first one I read was The Legend of Korra. So it's obviously The Last Airbender kind of comic. I quite enjoyed it actually, and I can see why people do enjoy The Last Airbender comics. It was very, very interesting, but not enough for me to want to continue to read the comic. The next one I read was Lumberjanes. I do have a couple of Lumberjane graphic novels, and I am looking to collect some more of those, so this was really interesting. The next one, oh, this one was so cute. This is one that I could get on board with. It is Owly and The Way Home, and this was so adorable. This beautiful little owl just wants to be friends with everybody, but of course they're all scared of him because he's an owl, and so he's trying to help people, little creatures, and they don't want him to help them. So he's really sad, and then one day he finds a worm, and the worm accepts his help, and together they are on their way to take the worm back home because apparently he's lost. It was so adorable and so cute, and I would definitely pick up another edition of the Owly comic because it was just so adorable. And then the last one I picked up was one that had a couple of stories in. So you had Jonna and the Impossible Monsters. That one was okay, but it didn't really give me enough to really get into it. Then you have Mooncakes, which I believe there is a graphic novel called Mooncakes, which this one is from. I did enjoy it, and I am definitely interested in picking up Mooncakes. Then you have a little bit from the Tea Dragon Tapestry, which I think is either the second or the third book in the Tea Dragon Society graphic novels. And this one was, again, adorably cute, and I would be interested in picking it up. And then you had The Sprite and the Gardener, which was a little bit like Jonna, didn't give me enough to really get into it. So I'm not that interested in picking anything up from that. So yeah, a really fun, quick read with all the four comics, and definitely had a very cutesy kind of theme going on. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed them. So yeah, if you want some free comic books, then just have a look on your nearest Forbidden Planet website, and hopefully if you sign up, I think I get a newsletter from them, and if you sign up for that newsletter, then you will get an email when they have their free comic book day, and you can go along, and I was allowed to pick up about 20 free comics, and there's all sorts of different comics there. They do all have this at the top, so they are specifically for that event. You can't just pick any comic, but hopefully it will help the comic book industry to get people to read more comics. So yeah, I'm quite happy with my little selection. Okay, on to the actual books that I've been reading. Ignore this bit of my hair. I will mess about with it every now and again. But as you can see, I'm trying a new thing by plaiting my hair instead of putting it up into a ponytail. And this little bit just won't go across. So it just ends up sitting there and annoying me. And I think I'm going to try 2 plaits next. I want to get away from putting it up in a ponytail all the time, but I do need it away from my neck. But anyway, that's not what we're here for. And my eyes are already watering. Great. The first book that I read was All the Stars and Teeth by Adeline Grace. I gave this one 3 stars, and my notes for it say, great debut novel, but lacked impact for me. Loved Vatea the Mermaid, obviously, and will continue with book 2. So yes, this was on my Mermaid Marathon TBR, which was hosted by the Brightside Girl. And this is a book that I have been wanting to read for a very, very, very long time. You have a princess, a pirate, a stowaway, and a mermaid, and the crew makes the queen, apparently. And 2 of those characters, a pirate and a mermaid, I am definitely interested in. However, this just didn't, it lacked oomph, you know, that impact. It never really kind of got exciting. There was things happening in it, but I just didn't feel edge of my seat. I didn't feel terrified for these people. They were never in any real danger. So I did feel like it just lacked a little firepower, you know. But I am interested enough to carry on to book 2. So yeah, it got 3 stars, which is a kind of, it was good and I'm glad I read it. But it's not a new favourite for me. The next book I read was an e-arc of The Drowned Woods by Emily Lloyd-Jones. And I got this from NetGalley, so thank you very much for letting me read that. This says, a Welsh set fantasy, corgi, yes, a corgi, as a possible spy. The crew is brought together to take down the evil prince, but is everyone's motive pure? Who can they trust? Each other. Interesting characters, great plot twists, and cute dog. This was really, really interesting. I gave this 4 stars, and I will definitely be wanting to pick this up as a physical copy in the future when it does come out. I believe that it is due out. Let me just check my notes. The Drowned Woods is due out on the 16th of August. So I will definitely be looking to pick up my own physical copy when it does come out, because this was just so interesting. It wasn't a mermaid book, but it definitely has water magic in it, and it was just so interesting. And I will say that close to the end, I did have a lump in my throat. I was gasping in shock and I had tears. So yeah, it definitely got me, and I will definitely be adding this book to my collection when it does get published. So yeah. The next book I read, it was my star book for the month. It is backwards. That was a great start. The Society for Soulless Girls by Laura Stephen. This, I love you. This got 5 stars. Did you expect anything less? And my notes for this says, oh my God. Laura Stephen has knocked it out of the park again. Dark, gothic and funny too. It just hit everything perfectly. This is a Jekyll and Hyde sapphic retelling, and oh my goodness, it deals with feminist rage in such a perfect way. It deals with such a serious matter with a touch of comedy. and it's just, the humor is just perfect. Laura Stephen is one of my favorite authors ever since I read The Exact Opposite of Okay, because she deals with such feminist issues with such a sense of humor that it just hits right. It's not man-hating feminism. It's the right kind of feminism. It's raising women up without knocking men down. And this is absolutely brilliant. Yes, there are men in here who might or might not be nice, but it's just read it. That's all I'm gonna, if I can push any books onto anybody, it will always be a Laura Stephen book. I have given 2 Laura Stephen books away in the past, and I want to buy this for everybody as well. I've given 2 copies of The Exact Opposite of Okay to 2 different people because I just want them to read it. One of them has read it, thank you very much Charlotte, and loved it. The other one, my daughter, it's still sat on her shelf, so and she's the one I really wanted to read it. But yeah, I absolutely love this. And the good news is that for my American audience, this will be coming your way in fall of 2023 because it has been picked up by an American publisher now. I don't know why it's taking them a year to get it to you, but the wait will be worth it. I promise you. This is amazing. I loved it. And I will be rereading this multiple times in the future. I can just tell. It's going on my favourite shelf in my bedroom next to The Exact Opposite of Okay and its sequel, A Girl Called Shameless, as well as Laura Stephen's The Love Hypothesis as well, because she also wrote that as well. So yes, there's that one. The next set of books, because yes, I'm going to talk about all these 3 together because they are a manga set. So again, for the Mermaid Marathon, I read Mermaid Boys 1, 2 and 3, and this is a manga graphic novel that retells The Little Mermaid, kind of, but with a male mermaid instead of a female mermaid. But instead of trading his voice, because let's face it, in manga they kind of need their voices because speech is all you're getting, he trades his good looks for his legs instead. So he's a sexy looking male mermaid in the water, but when he's on land he is some normal teenage boy. So yeah, it was quite comical at times. I gave all of these 3 stars from 1 to 3. So yeah, just a fun and quick read. I will not be keeping these though. Generally I will keep all of my mermaid books, but I don't feel like this manga is enough to take up space on my shelf, because I do have limited shelf space. This here is my mermaid shelf, and I do have limited space on there, so I will not be keeping these. I will be passing these on for somebody else to read. The next book I read was a little novella called The Mermaids Kiss by Tamsin Lee. This one got a 4 stars. And my notes on it say, smut, smut, smut. A grieving human woman saved by a horny merman. Interesting plot despite being short. Loved it. Now there is trigger warnings for child loss and suicide in here. So yes, there is a woman who right at the beginning of this novel is trying to get a little love from her husband. Only he's not really that into it, and then it cuts to later when she's jumping off a bridge to commit suicide, and when she enters the water, a merman appears, and things happen from there. The majority of this story does then continue all underwater. He takes her back to his lair. So yeah, there is a plot in here and it is very interesting, and I do want to continue with this series. I believe it's called the Monster series. So the first 3 books of the series have mermaids in them, or mermen, and then there's one with Jinn and one with a centaur, I do believe. Those are the other 2 monsters, technically. But yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. Very short, read it quickly, but it got right in there. Pardon the pun. But yeah, smut, pure smut, and little bit of plot. But I loved it. So 4 stars for that one. That one will be going back on my mermaid shelf. The next book I read was Seafire by Natalie C. Parker. This one also got 4 stars. And my notes for this say, female pirates, fighting the enemy, learning to trust, fight their own prejudice. Action-packed, flows quickly, and I now want to read the next book in the series. Yes, thoroughly enjoyed this one. I really liked that we had this female pirate crew who were very much, they relied on each other, they trusted in each other, and it was just such a great, great book. And there's a little bit of inner fighting on the crew because they rescue a bullet who is a member of their worst enemy's crew, and the story is just so interesting because there's lots of like inner fighting in the crew, but then there's the fight in the enemy as well, and the enemy are all men, and it was just great. And there was different, the world building in here was really, really good as well. So definitely a book that is going to be staying on my shelves, and I'm going to be looking for the second book. I don't know what that one's called, but I will definitely be looking at the rest of this series to purchase because I definitely know what's going to happen next. So loved it, absolutely. The next book I read was Book Lovers by Emily Henry. And when I say this book was such a shock to my system, I truly mean it, because this got 5 stars. I read this in one afternoon. The whole thing in one afternoon. I could not put this down. It got 5 stars. My note says, the anti-Hallmark movie. Who loves the hard-nosed bitch? When the city is home and the small town loses. I loved it. Yeah, absolutely. I love me a good cheesy Hallmark movie. You know, the movies that come out at Christmas, you know, a big city gal moves to the countryside because she's inherited her long lost auntie's farm or something, and she ends up falling for the local boy. Those movies, I love watching them. I do not like reading them. This book is the anti-Hallmark movie. You have the big city girl who wants to be a big city girl. She does not want to live in the countryside. But what happens to her? This is her story. And I could not put this down. Dinner came. Scott made dinner and I did not put this book down. I read while I ate. I haven't done that in such a long time. I even put the Society for Soulless Girls down when I was eating. But this book, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. But I just had to know what happens next. There is some romance in here. I was up for it. I loved it. And I'm so shocked because I don't do contemporaries. Like, contemporaries is not my genre. And this one blew me away. So you can bet your bottom dollar I went out and I bought a few contemporaries. Because I want to know if this is just a one-off, or is Emily Henry one of my new favourite authors? I mean, I got the same buzz from this as watching a Hallmark movie. So I don't know what it is, but I was shocked. I'm as shocked as you are. So yeah, loved it. 5 stars. The next book I read was Scatterheart by Lily Wilkinson, and this one got 4 stars. My notes say East of the Sun, West of the Moon story, told as the chapter headings. Was surprised how much I enjoyed it. Wasn't expecting to. Yes, if you are a lover of East of the Sun, West of the Moon, then at the beginning of each chapter you get like this part here that is telling a East of the Sun, West of the Moon story, and then the actual story of our main character called Hannah is the rest of the chapter. Scatterheart is the name of the character in that little heading bit at the beginning of each chapter. I was kind of expecting not to enjoy this. I knew it was going to be on a ship. I knew it was about the convict ships. I wasn't sure if I was going to enjoy it or not, because looking at this cover, although it is pretty, it does kind of, you know, it's kind of like a meh kind of cover, but oh my god, the story inside, I was so taken with it. I really enjoyed this. Like, I was shocked at how much I thoroughly enjoyed this. I don't know if I was still buzzing off book lovers or not. I don't know. But I really did. I really enjoyed it. It was very dark and gritty at times. We are dealing with a convict ship, so there are some icky parts. Let's just say that. And yeah, it was dark and definitely gritty. And if you love a historical fiction, then you will enjoy this as well. So Scatterheart got 4 stars. The next book I read was Les Mis Volume 2 by Victor Hugo. So I gave this one 3 stars, and my note says just more of the same from Volume 1, though I recognised more of the events in this one from the musical. But oh boy, blah blah blah. That's literally what I've written, blah blah blah. That came out a bit posh, didn't it? Yeah, I did recognise more of what happened in this book than I did in book 1, because book 1 I felt like was a lot of setup for the story, a lot of history about the French Revolution and stuff like that, and the French wars and stuff. This one I recognise more events from the musical. I will not be keeping both volumes 1 and 2 of Les Mis, because I feel like if I want this story, I'm just going to watch the musical. This just waffled on so much, and coming from a waffler myself, that's a lot. Even I don't waffle on as much as this guy did. I mean, this story could have been just one book instead of divided into 2 volumes if he just didn't waffle so much. So I'm not going to continue waffling. It was a 3-star. I will be unhauling both volume 1 and 2. And I'm just going to watch the musical from now on. Love the musical. The next book I read was my book club pick, and that was the very short We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. And I gave this one 2 stars. Oopsies. My notes say 146 pages. Felt like 800. I just didn't care. Big twist. Oops, saw that coming. Was this supposed to be scary? Yes. I guessed the whole thing. I guessed the twist. But when I mentioned that I guessed the twist at my book club, one of the guys who absolutely loved this book said, yeah, that was the whole point. You were supposed to know. And I was like, ah, right, okay. It didn't feel like I was supposed to know that, you know? A twist is supposed to be a twist that you don't see coming. You're not supposed to know the twists. That's the whole thing about a twist, you know? Look, maybe I'm not clever enough or intelligent enough to understand the literary genius of Shirley Jackson. I'm coming at it purely from a I read for enjoyment, not for intellect kind of point of view. I'm not studying this. I'm not delving into the backstory or to the meaning behind the story. I'm reading it for enjoyment and purely for what is on the page. I don't really know or understand or get too involved about what the whole story means, you know, what it represents, anything like that. Maybe, you know, if I had studied literary at university or college, maybe I might be more into that side of reading. But I have always used reading as a form of enjoyment, as a hobby, as something to please my time. I think this is more of a literary fiction that you need to sort of delve and study into to really get the benefit of it. So that's why it gets a low score for me. It was a 2-star. I like the ending. The ending was, I don't want to say cute, but it was kind of heartfelt, and I did think, oh, God bless him, you know, but yeah, just a 2-star for me. The book I read was The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. This one got a 3 stars from me, and my notes say, to say the protagonists were in their late 20s, early 30s, my God, they acted like rampant teenagers. Read like a Mills and Boon, might pick up the sequels, but probably the Kindle editions. All sex, no love. Yeah, I think if I am going to continue with this series, I'm just going to pick up a Kindle copy because I'm not going to want these on my shelves once I've finished with them. And yeah, there's just, it was like lust at first sight, you know? She walks into the room where he is and he's like gagging for it already. Like, he literally gets a hard on the moment she walks through the door. It was just like, hello, how old are you? You know, and it's just, no. I like a little, I mean, don't get me wrong. I like a fast-paced romance novel, okay? I like the action to get going. But literally, the action was going literally within the first 10 pages. Now, when we read like something like The Mermaids Kiss and it starts off in the first 10 pages, I can understand that. It's only 146. But this one is 434 pages. So to get the action on that quick, just little too fast. Little too fast for my liking. They were more like rampant teenagers, you know. They hadn't had sex before, so it was all exciting for them. Wasn't my thing. So yes, I would like to find out what happens in the sequels. I believe there's going to be another 2 because there are 3 brothers that we're following. And I want to know what happens to the other 2. But I will just buy the Kindle editions, not the physical books. It's still getting money to the author, but not as much. And it's not going to take up space on my bookshelves, which I'm running out of room, so I need to carefully think about what books I bring into my collection. So yeah, there's that. So I do believe this has Muslim features in it. Please correct me if I'm wrong with the religion or culture. But this is what I believe is Muslim, and I really, really enjoyed it. I am not very well versed in the Muslim culture, and I don't know any Muslims in my life at the moment. It's not because I don't mean to, it's just that I lead a very closed life. I don't have many friends. Most of my friends I make online. I'm a very, 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 very introverted person. If I could live in this world alone, that would be great. That I'm that introverted. I'm happy when I'm on my own. It's basically it. I love my husband very, very much, but I spend a lot of time still on my own. I'm used to it. It's how I like it. That's why I read, to be a part of the world and be a part of something. And I love this, and I love that our children now are going to be introduced to the different cultures, different religions, through stories like this that are not prejudiced in any way, shape or form. And it will open their eyes to a world that I never got the chance to be subject to when I was a kid. So yeah, I love that the bookish community now is welcoming and has beautiful stories like this to enjoy and read and share. So yes, loved this story. Absolutely so glad that I picked this up. And I just liked the cover. That's why I picked it up. I liked the cover, but I loved the story. So 4 stars for this one. The next book I read was The Vicious Deep by Zoraida Cordova. Now, I love her incendiary duology. So when I discovered she'd written a mermaid book or a merman book, I was so ready for it. So this is the first book in a trilogy, and oh, God bless. I ordered all 3 books off Amazon because that was the only place I could find it. But book 2 was coming from somewhere different. And it took all month for book 2 to arrive. I was planning on reading all 3 in July, get the whole thing read for Mermaid Marathon. That didn't happen because it took till the end of July for book 2 to arrive because it was coming all the way from America. Did not realise that when I ordered it. But yeah, absolutely really enjoyed this story. It was 3 stars for me. I did enjoy it. It's just, when I compare this to Incendiary, and I believe this is more her debut. Yeah, a delicious debut. Yeah. So this is her debut writing. You can tell that she has got better when you read her Incendiary duology. So you saw the potential in this for what she ends up writing in Incendiary, and I loved that. So my note says, interesting male dude POV. Debut of the author's writing shows her raw talent for storytelling, but lacked the finesse that her recent books have. I am interested, however, in continuing the series. So yes, like I say, you could see the raw potential from this to Incendiary. I love Incendiary and its duology. Love that book so much, and that's why I just had to pick up her Dude trilogy as well, because it's mermaids. But yeah, this is definitely young YA, typical YA tropey thing, but really interesting. So I almost picked up the second book when it arrived to try and read that before the end of July. However, I did want to read something else as well and get that read. So I ended up putting down the second book and not finishing it, not reading it. And I'll maybe keep that for another month. But yeah, I did enjoy it, and I can see her raw potential here, which was then perfected by the time she wrote Incendiary, and I love that. So yeah, 3 stars for that one. The next book I read was another e-arc from NetGalley, and that was Daughter of Darkness by Catherine and Elizabeth Kaur. My notes on this one says, Greek gods and legends reimagining. Underworld quest to save Eurydice by Group of Soul Severers. Character arcs were great. The dangers, nail-biting and mysterious Nat who helps Dana whenever she calls. This is another book that I will be purchasing when it does come out. Let me check my notes and see when it does. Daughter of Darkness has now been published, I believe, from the 4th of August. So it should be available now to purchase. And this was such an interesting underworld, Hades kind of Greek mythology story. It was absolutely brilliant. I really enjoyed it. There was danger, there was these creatures that were like tearing people apart, and it was just brilliant. I gave it 4 stars. It was lacking something, but I can't quite put my finger on what it was lacking. You know, when you just feel like, when I was sat there thinking about what rating I was going to give it, I knew I was going to give it 4 stars, and I was thinking, but is it 5? I feel like it could be a 5. Is it a 5? And I could not think for one moment why it was missing something. Just, I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but it wasn't quite a 5. It's a very high 4. I will definitely be purchasing a copy of this. I will definitely be looking for the sequel, because I believe that there is going to be a sequel to it. Is it a duology? Did I note down if it was a duology? Yeah, it's going to be a duology. So there will be a sequel to it, and I need this book. It's also got a very beautiful cover, and I hope that's not the American cover, because sometimes Goodreads shows you the American cover. But yeah, definitely a book to watch out for. It was brilliant. It was really edge of your seat, kind of. At one point, I do believe I shouted, "Run!" because they were being chased. Brilliant book. And the last book that I read was another purchase in July. It's Curse of the Wolf King by Sonia Odette. Again, I was looking for mermaid books, and there is a mermaid book in this series, but I believe it's book 3 of the series. So I wanted to read book 1 first in the Entangled with Fae series. So it's like that. And so I will quickly read you a little bit of the synopsis at the back. I'm not going to read all of it because there's a lot. In fact, if I put that there, you might be able to pause it and read it. But it basically says, a beastly Fae king with a deadly curse, a devious bargain to break it. All Gemma Belfleur wants is to leave her past behind and forget the day scandal broke her heart. But when she's captured by a trickster Fae king who threatens to hold her for ransom, she'll find herself at the top of the gossip column yet again. Unless. So yeah, that's all I'm going to read you of the synopsis at the back, because it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. That's all you kind of really need to know. We have a very sassy, very clever female lead in this story, and we have a very broody, not very happy Fae king that she ends up helping to break the curse. So yes, I absolutely love this story. I gave this 5 stars. This was perfect. Nothing wrong with this at all. I wasn't missing something to get that 5 stars. Absolutely thoroughly enjoyed this book from start to finish. Really, I think I read this in like a day. I could not put it down. Again, could not put it down. So my notes on this one says, Beauty and the Beast retelling, Gemma unafraid to work hard for her freedom. Elliot despises his silly form. A beautiful love story. Ah, Mika. Yes. There is a little boy in here called Mika, and my little mother heart just wants to give him a hug. I keep finding these side characters that I just want to give loves and hugs to, and it breaks my heart. This story was just brilliant. It has very much a Court Thorns and Roses vibes without the Tamlin kind of situation. it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, so it kind of is that what you call it syndrome. I can't remember what it's called, but you know, that's the nature of Beauty and the Beast retellings, just like that. But definitely a great book, and I cannot wait to purchase and read the second and third book. I believe the next one is a Cinderella retelling, I'm not sure, but yeah, I cannot wait to get through these books until I can get to the, I think it's a Selkie, not a mermaid, Kiss of the Selkie or something, or Kiss from a Selkie is the third book. So obviously I want to get to that one. Selkies are more like women who change into seals, or have a seal, are seals who change into women, rather than mermaids, but it's same thing, you know, women of the sea. So yeah, very excited to continue this series. 5 stars. So that is it. That is all of the books that I read in July. So let's get to the statistics. So first of all, the physical pages that I read was 4,157. Yes, because the total number of books, I always forget to do this one first. The total books that I read was 17. 17 books. I was on such a reading mood. And it was probably because I was reading a lot of mermaid books. So yeah, physical pages was 4,157. The ebook pages I read was 777, all the sevens. The audio hours of books that I own, which was basically Les Mis, was 32 hours and 54 minutes. That was for just Les Mis. And that was volume 2. It's a long ass audio book, I tell you. It's about 65 hours long, the full audio book. Anyway, ratings. I gave 3 books 5 stars, 6 books were 4 stars, 7 were 3 stars, 1 was a 2 star, and again we had no 1 stars and no DNFs, which is always great. I like to see zeros on those. We read 1 thriller, 2 contemporaries, 1 classic, 1 middle grade, 3 mangas, graphic novels, no non-fiction, which I really need to up my non-fiction readings, and 9 fantasies and sci-fis. Let's face it, they were all fantasies, most of them mermaidy. The origin of the books I read, 15 were owned, 2 were borrowed, so those would be the 2 NetGalley arcs. The format of the books I read, 14 I read physically, 1 I read audibly, and 2 I read ebookly. It's a word, I'm using it. Binding, 1 was hardback and 14 were paperback. The gender, 2 were male and 13 were female. The longest book I read was Les Mis at 502 pages. The shortest book I read was The Mermaids Kiss at 141 pages. The oldest book I read was Les Miserables, volume 2, which was published in 1862. The newest book I read is Daughter of Darkness, which is published in August of 2022 this year. The highest rated, this shocked me, because it was almost the Society for Soulless Girls. But I think because it's so new, it was only published in July, I think, or late June. The actual highest rated on Goodreads is Les Mis Volume 2 at a 4.43 rating. Shocked. Absolutely shocked. Although I did read quite a few like self-published books this month, but even book lovers or I don't know, Seafire, I don't know, I thought they might have won it, but anyway. The lowest rated The Mermaids Kiss at 3.52 ratings. Could have something to do with the fact that it is, I think, self-published. The worst book for me was obviously my 2-star read, which was the book club pick, We Have Always Lived in the Castle. And my favourite, I'm sorry, I know that technically I couldn't put Book Lovers down, and I read it all in one afternoon, but this book pips it. I'm sorry, but Laura Stephen, I love her writing. I immerse myself in her worlds, and I just really thoroughly enjoyed it. And of all of the books that I read in the month of July, the one book that I would ask people to pick up out of all of them is this one. I will recommend this book till the cows come home. The Society for Soulless Girls by Laura Stephen is my favourite book, my best book of the month. If you pick up any book, I suggest you pick up this one. Jekyll and Hyde, Sapphic retelling. Awesome. So that is it. That is my reading wrap up for July. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.